I never thought that a simple emergency lock command would ignite a community scandal and get our HOA president arrested, but that's exactly what unfolded when Clara Jennings decided she had the right to force her way into my home with a counterfeit master key. I was thousands of miles away, consulting with international clients, while my 12-year-old son, Ethan, stood calmly inside, witnessing every moment. What Clara didn't realize was that our home security system had been recording her every move, footage that would later dismantle her fabricated authority. My name is Daniel Rivera, a single father and freelance programmer who believed moving into Maplewood Crest would bring serenity, security, and a fresh chapter. 3 months back, Ethan and I left behind our cramped city apartment and moved into this gated suburb lined with pristine houses, neatly trimmed hedges, and what I foolishly thought was a normal walk. Instead, we walked straight into Clara Jennings' fiefdom, a woman who mistook her volunteer position for unchecked dominion. Clara wasted no time making her presence known. Mere hours after we'd unloaded the last box, she arrived, clipboard in hand, casting judgmental glances at our modest moving truck. She offered subtle threats about community standards, wrapped in fake politeness. I brushed it off, assuming it was typical neighborly overreach. That perception shifted when she noticed Ethan walking home alone from school. One afternoon, as I unloaded groceries, Clara stormed up our driveway, her voice dripping with condescension. Single fathers often face challenges with child supervision. Perhaps after-school care would be wise. I explained that Ethan was 12, responsible, and that I monitored him through our smart security setup while working remotely. Clara forced a smile, one that felt more like a warning than a greeting, and walked away. But I knew it wasn't the last we'd hear from her. Days later, she knocked again, claiming there was an HOA regulation forbidding children under 16 from being home alone. I asked for a copy of this so-called rule. She said it was being updated. The document never appeared. What did appear, however, was Clara herself, in a silver crossover, patrolling our street daily. Every weekday at 3:45 p.m., her car would either crawl past our home or park conspicuously across from it. Ethan, uneasy, once asked me if she was planning to kidnap him. We began documenting everything: timestamps, photos, doorbell footage. But nothing could have prepared us for what happened that fateful Thursday afternoon in October. I was immersed in a critical video conference with clients in Tokyo when a flood of security alerts hit my phone. Door sensors triggered, failed key attempts, unauthorized entry detected. Then, through the security speaker, Clara's voice blared, demanding Ethan open the door. My disbelief morphed into panic. Through the live feed, I watched her forcefully trying to unlock our front door, shouting about conducting a welfare inspection as the HOA president. Ethan, remarkably composed, activated our emergency lockdown protocol, a security feature I had custom installed. Doors sealed, windows reinforced, and every camera began live recording. He called me immediately. "Dad, that Clara lady is trying to break in. She has some key, but it's not working." My heart raced. "Stay calm, son. You did the right thing. I'll handle it." I addressed Clara through the speaker, warning her to leave or face trespassing charges. That's when she escalated things beyond reason. She called 911, fabricating a story about an abandoned minor in immediate danger. When I contacted dispatch to correct the narrative, they informed me officers were already dispatched. I abandoned my meeting, grabbed my keys, and sped home. The 15-minute drive felt like an eternity. When I arrived, 2 patrol cars were stationed outside. Officers Reynolds and Hayes stood on my porch, while Clara paced in a frenzy, frantically pointing at her phone, accusing me of neglect. Through our doorbell camera, Ethan calmly explained to the officers that he was safe, doing homework, and didn't feel comfortable opening the door to a stranger. As I stepped out of my car, Clara pointed dramatically, "That's the irresponsible father. He left his child alone." Officer Reynolds remained composed. "Sir, may we hear your account?" "Absolutely," I said, unlocking the door with my actual key, while Clara's counterfeit key dangled uselessly in her hand. I invited them inside. Ethan was at the kitchen table, calmly working on his assignments, his textbook and notebook spread out. The officers confirmed he had access to food, water, and communication. Then, I showed them the security footage. They watched Clara approach, attempt to breach our lock multiple times, and then call emergency services with a false report. Her demeanor in the footage wasn't concerned, it was aggressive. When Officer Hayes inquired about the origin of her key, Clara's fabricated story unraveled quickly. It's a maintenance master key, from a past inspection, she stammered. You made a duplicate without the homeowner's consent. He pressed. She hesitated. It's HOA protocol. Officer Reynolds didn't buy it, produce that policy. Clara had no documentation. That's when I presented the compiled evidence. Timestamps of her surveillance, screenshots of harassing messages, and even a video from Mrs. Patel across the street showing Clara idling in her car for over 30 minutes, observing our house. The officers shifted their attention to Clara. Words like false report, unauthorized entry, and criminal trespass began surfacing. Clara's bravado drained from her face. Neighbors had started to gather, pretending to collect mail or water plants, phones recording discreetly. It was clear this incident would be social media gold by evening. Once again, Officer Hayes asked for any bylaw permitting her forced entry. Clara mumbled about an ongoing policy revision, but Officer Reynolds cut her off. No HOA guidelines supersede state property laws. Ma'am, you're being cited for unlawful entry attempts and filing a false emergency report. Clara's protests fell on deaf ears. You can't cite me, I'm the HOA president. She shrieked. Irrelevant, Officer Hayes replied, scribbling out the violation notice. I informed the officers I would be pressing formal charges. When I mentioned my legal counsel would be in touch, Clara's composure cracked. At the next HOA assembly, the room was packed wall to wall. My attorney, Lisa Bennett, a specialist in HOA legalities, joined me and presented our case with methodical precision. Clara sat stiffly, flanked by board members who avoided eye contact. Lisa highlighted not just the illegal key duplication, but also the psychological distress inflicted on Ethan and the misuse of emergency resources. Lisa called for a comprehensive key audit. Michael Chen, the HOA treasurer, admitted Clara had never been authorized for any key duplication initiative. Anna Patel, the secretary, provided meeting records confirming Clara's proposal for home access had been unanimously rejected months prior. The motion for a no-confidence vote was swift and unanimous. Even her staunchest allies turned their backs. Clara stood abruptly, declaring, "You'll all regret this. Without me, this place will descend into chaos." She stormed out as the room sat in silence. But it didn't end there. Clara was fined $5,000 for filing a false report, faced misdemeanor charges for unauthorized key duplication. And her realtor's license was suspended pending review. We filed a civil suit for harassment and emotional damages, and won. Clara was ordered to pay $15,000 in damages and was permanently banned from holding any HOA position. A restraining order prohibited her from coming within 100 feet of our property. I'll never forget the court sentencing. Clara stood there, stripped of her fake power, her carefully curated image shattered. The judge listed her offenses one by one. When the bailiff outlined her probation terms, Clara's defiant mask crumbled into a public breakdown. The woman who once ruled the neighborhood through intimidation and imaginary authority became a lesson in consequences. And it all started because my 12-year-old son knew exactly when to hit the emergency lockdown button.